Hello. Alrighty, so I'm revisiting the last exercise from Drawbox, even though I'm gonna add a little bit of my own personal um, gesture. And we have our louse here, and it's a really clear image. I really like it compared to some other images that were a little bit blurry. This one's pretty good. So I'm going to start with, just to tell you, I kind of iterate these in the other videos. When I'm doing gesture, I try to make everything stick to either a circle, an S curve, or like some variation of it, or a C curve. You could do straight lines, but I feel like you never see straight lines in organic subjects. So yeah, I'm going to start with the head ball thing. And this is a really clear image. For all these revisiting Dropbox exercises, I am going to put a link in the description to like the exact page to make sure, just to show you like the exercise. I mean, I may make mistakes along the way, but I'm gonna roll with it. So we have our head there, we have our thorax here. I made that a bit too big. I think like that. And we have the abdomen here. It's really interesting because, like, I feel like I'm seeing a shape in a shape. It's kind of like bug armor. Like, I see, this is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing like a shape kind of like that, and then I'm seeing like an extension that kind of like goes over it that's a bit ridged. But I'm gonna summarize the big shape as like I don't often do this, but I think I will. I'm gonna kind of like append it as a different shape. No, I don't like that one. I'm gonna do that one more time. Let me do it one more time. I just kind of did that to connect it. I am going to connect these other things. It's really interesting because here it kind of seems a bit more like there's a pole. But I can see this other connecting thing right here. Like it kind of, it connects a bit differently. Like kind of like that maybe. Along the contour of the ball. But as you would in the Drawbox exercise, I am going to like draw the connecting contours, kind of like that, kind of like that. I'm beginning to think that it was probably a bad idea. Like I probably should have kept. I should have kept this shape. Like I shouldn't have make it splice. But I guess based on the perspective, it does kind of look like this object is in front of that one, but it does go down here. I like obviously like you have to think of it like that this object here is just sitting behind here. So like even though it continues at that point, it would I guess it's so hard for me to think of it. I think maybe it would have been a better idea if I'd have like done that, because I did kind of draw two circles for my thorax there, and kind of be like that. Kind of like that to like show the flow. But I don't really like the shape I did. I feel like I could have done the shape more justice. I think it should have been more gradual. Kind of like that. I think that kind of does the shape more justice. And on our thorax, I feel like the legs are really, like the connection points are a lot easier to see. Kind of there. And now that I'm thinking of it, I may have made, maybe I can make that larger. Because I think in a couple of my other videos that I did of this, I'm really struggling trying to get the leg proportions correct. But I will work harder to try that. Because I think a mistake on my end is that, like, if you really look at the body, or sorry, the thorax, this section here of our louse, I feel like the legs are like the sausage things really take up a big chunk of it, and I feel like there's this area left over here that really shouldn't be as small as I'm making it. Just my opinion. I'm going to do the other 3 legs on the other side, even though there is some obscuring that's going on. Good, we got our 3 legs. Now I'm going to draw just like a simple line, just to kind of summarize the gesture that I'm seeing. That's too far. I think like that. I think that's good. And here, it's really interesting, that leg, based on the perspective. There's like a lot of obscuring. So it's like it would go down more and probably kind of like wrap around. Not wrap around, but just kind of like, it would kind of follow like that, but it's kind of mirrored. And it's really getting obfuscated. For that right side middle leg, it's kind of like, it would kind of be like that. I mean, it's just all obscured in it. And this other leg is pretty far out. Not that far out. Pretty far out. Now, one thing I keep remembering, and I'm sorry that I'm jumping all over the place. The legs, like, I'm seeing these, the claws, and I remember a long time ago from the exercise that I messed up on the scorpion, and it was kind of like I wasn't really connecting the claws. I wasn't connecting the claw structure enough. So I really want to keep that in mind to wrap it around the form when I do that. Just to keep in mind. I'm pretty sure... I don't know if a louse is the same as lice. I bet it is. Because it looks like it's on hair, and I'm pretty sure those hooks are for staying on hair. But okay, so I established the gesture. You know what? I want to say that that is pretty gestural. That I don't know what it does. I don't know if it's... I really don't know what it is. It looks like a pincer, but it's another form there that I wanted to kind of add on to the gesture that I've been doing. And it kind of just like goes up, you know. Oh, I also need to work on some of the head forms. You have like the center piece here, which kind of looks like a bulbous cylinder. And kind of like bulges out a bit and kind of wraps around the form. Like, I'm trying to be aware of how it wraps around the contour. It's kind of like an additional insetted thing. And to the side, you have I think they're antenna. I couldn't think what else they would be. But they're also like another inset thing. You know, they kind of like really wrap around the ball, around the curvature. You have one on the other side. And the interesting thing, I think I should have made that stick out more. Well, I'll cover that. Because the antenna kind of go to about there. Let me think. I think it is a little bit more exaggerated, like that. Kind of like that. And on the other side, oh man, you could, like, based on our perspective, if you see where my computer mouse is, it's like you could really see that form extending off the head. Like it's the perspective of it is pretty cool. It's kind of like a cylinder, kind of like that wraps around the contour once it gets to the head. You have like another C curve there, kind of. That's what I'm seeing in it. And we also have the eye socket, and it's like there's like an inset before you get the bulbous thing. Kind of like goes a bit, kind of like that. Sorry, I don't like to do subtractive construction. You know what, maybe I shouldn't. I think in this case, it kind of like bulges out like that. But just to tell you the thing that I just drew here, I'm going to do that one more time. The thing I just drew here is like more like the extended socket. So if you actually look at its eye here, it's like another form that is like that. It's very weird. And like here, you could also see it on our louse. Kind of like extends a bit. It's like the eye. It's like really, it's so weird. Kind of like that. It's really interesting. Actually, no, I'm not going to draw that one. So yeah, I think at that point, I kind of established a gesture. Now I'm going to start kind of honing out some more forms. So the other thing, I kind of see, I'm guessing they're like its mouth right here. It looks like a little bit of another extending form. So I'm going to like tack that onto there. Let me do it one more time. It's like another extending form. That's what I believe I'm seeing. And you also have like the little things. I'm not sure what they are. Alrighty, so I am going to add, so 1, 2, 3, about 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you have like these antenna, and they're like kind of bulbous, and they kind of like go around. They're kind of like all in each other. They kind of, it's kind of like you know those like Russian nesting dolls? It's kind of like they're like that, but a little bit out. But they're getting smaller the farther away they are from the base. So I am trying to be mindful of that. And then the cap is a bit like rounded. Like the last one is, it's kind of like, I'll make it larger, right? All of them kind of look like that. No, let me do it better. Oh, sorry. I spit on my tablet. All of them are kind of like that. Kind of like a tooth shape. But the last one I am seeing here, it's inset, but it's like more rounded. Kind of like that. I feel like... Okay, so the other thing, I want to touch apart this center thing here. It's kind of like a cylinder that connects here, and I feel like I didn't do a good job making it taper. Like, it should have tapered more before it hits the curvature here. Kind of like it's larger farther out. Kind of like that. Alrighty, so I have that one. I'm going to try to do this one. And there were 4. I mean, the last one is like capped off. Based on the perspective, it looks a little bit longer. It's not doing it right. More being like... Okay, so going back here, we had our initial gesture ball. Oop. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry about that loud Windows sound. I clicked my layer. So we have the ball here, right? And I also realized that this one here is also more like tapering a bit. Kind of getting a bit, it kind of looks like it's getting a bit larger as it goes to the base and wraps around the form of our initial ball gesture head. I kind of realized, like here, it kind of looks like there's a bit of a line that smoothly flows from, the antenna to the eye socket. Like, I'm seeing this additional form. I guess I kind of made it for that side, but for this side, I feel like I'm not seeing it as much. And I feel like I also made a mistake with not extending the first initial antenna cylinder out far enough. Because if I look here, it kind of looks like there's a smooth line that connects to the eye socket, in my opinion. Kind of like that. And I'm also seeing that there's like a little bit, like right here, if you look where my mouse is over here, if you see the head here, it kind of looks like there's a little bit bulging out before kind of rounding. Like, it kind of looks like that. And like I'm not doing this justice. It's like there's a little bit of a bulge out. And you know what, I think I kind of already covered, I think I kind of did that. It's kind of like a brow line. Like, if you think of a person, I feel like there's like you know, if you look at a skull, or most people, there's like a point on them that kind of bulges out before you get to their eye socket, and it's kind of like a brow line. But, I mean, I could clearly tell the louse doesn't have eyebrows. Okay. So, I think the next thing I should start on, I'm going to work on the body. So, for the thorax, I see that there's like 3 sections. 3 armor sections. And they all kind of go like that. Oh. Okay, so another thing I just thought, I should have been thinking of this a lot more logically. It's kind of like a puzzle piece that fits apart. So if you look at the sections here, you can tell that like every section seems to correlate to like a leg. So originally I was going to haphazardly draw one here, but I'd be cutting over the middle leg, which isn't right. So instead, like, if you think of it logically, you have the armor. I'm going to do that one more time. Okay, let me do that one more time. It's kind of like that. Look, I encapsulated the initial leg things, but I also I'm going to do it a little bit shorter. Not shorter, but just like, I'll show you. It's kind of like that. The ridging. You see, it's like the second part here is also like near the middle legs, and the last part here. And the interesting thing with the last part, I am going to draw through it. I'm going to do it from this end. You know, encapsulate those as well. It the whole shape in the back gets a bit bizarre, but I'm also seeing that same ridging. Although it kind of does eventually get a bit difficult to make out. I'm kind of seeing like one. Well, actually, I can count these things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's kind of like 5, and you get like the main whatever this thing is. It's kind of like not as covered. I guess I'll try to split it into 5. But I think what I want to do here. Okay, I'll do one at a time. It may take some guesswork because there's that initial one. Should have been like kind of like that. Oh, it should have been down more. Two. Three. Should have been connecting better. 4. 5, and then you have like this part here, like this little extra uncovered part. So I think I kind of made it a bit too elongated, and it would have been better for me to sum it up kind of like that. Like if I hide the gesture, well, that kind of hides some of the initial construction that I meant to. I may have did a little extra construction on the gesture layer, but sorry about that. I will try to work on that in the future. So you kind of have it like I made it too thin. I think it's a bit. I think it kind of goes out a bit, kind of like that, in my opinion. Like kind of like that shape. Oh darn. But I'm gonna roll with that. So just to do that, just to show you, we have that part. I think I made it too thick. We have that. That thing, whatever that thing is. Oh, darn. I am going to just quickly trace over. I don't like to trace. I don't do that. But I think it's going to give me some good insight. I probably did way too much on that. Did not connect that. No. I'm really sorry about this tangent here. With our louse. But I'm gonna stop trying to hide that construction or gesture. So okay, I'm gonna start with the legs. So I kind of see like 1, 2, 3. It's like 1, 2, 3, and then it's like the claw. I'm gonna work out that shape initially. Maybe it's more than that. It's really hard to see. It's a very weird shape. It kind of like bulges out on both sides. Wow, it's such a bizarre shape. I wonder if it would be better to maybe sum it up in 5. Because there's like the initial connecting beam. Then I'm seeing like a segment that kind of connects to that. It's a bit smaller. Then I'm seeing like this leg thing kind of turn. No, it's like really fat. It's so hard to think about. It's a bit more like that. Not really seeing it. I know there probably is some type of curvature to it, and I shouldn't be making it straight like that. But I feel like for that perspective, I'm gonna kind of no. I can kind of see it, so kind of does that. It's not the best shape, and then it like the claw kind of connects here, and that shape is more like that. It's kind of like that, and then you have the think of it like a crab claw, but I could clearly see that connects to that main thing. I guess it would probably be better to do it like to connect it to itself, kind of like that. Then I could see here. It's actually interesting. Kind of looks like you can kind of see the connection point. I'm gonna do this claw segment in 2, and I'm gonna add a little gesture because I'm seeing like a little S curve that goes connected to it. So there's like that part, then it's kind of like connected, and it's a bit rounded. No, let me think. It's kind of like that. It's a bit fatter in the middle. I think I should have looked closer. It's kind of like that. I think it's kind of like that. So I have that part, and like here at the end, you have the claw. Kind of like that. Or it probably should have been a bit more curved. A bit more curved. And I think it's a little bit more fatter near the base. Like I should have made that a bit fatter. I kind of made it a bit too thin. But okay, on to the next leg. I'm going to do the middle one, and it's a bit obscured. I could kind of see it. Like, the problem is, kind of how I'm seeing it, it's a bit like that, and then I'm just seeing the other, like the perspective is kind of making the shape look a bit different than it actually is. I also realized I may have made this ellipse right here a bit larger than I should have, so I'm gonna kind of make it a bit smaller and try to work with it again. side that, and then it's kind of like that. And the interesting part here, I drew 1, 2, 1, 2, then we have the claw. And the claw is really distorted in our perspective here. Looks a bit more like, it's kind of weird, but it kind of looks more like the antenna. And I kind of drew a little bit of a connecting line to show how it's inset, like how the legs are connected into these segments. So it was a bit more like, it kind of looks more like an antenna shape based on the perspective. And like, it's really hard to see the mini claw here. It's definitely there, but it's like really distorted by the perspective. I'm also seeing the other leg is a little less distorted, but I'm going to draw it in a couple of shapes. Then we have a sharp shape. Like that. No, I should have made it closer to the bottom. Kind of like that. Yeah, I think so. Maybe I should have added a form to show before that that other one that's a bit distorted. Alrighty, now for the back leg. The interesting thing about this is I think I should have made this ellipse a bit more angled differently. It kind of looks like this leg is kind of sitting a bit close, like the back left leg here is kind of sitting close to the kind of looks like it's next or on top of that middle left leg, like right here. Kind of looks like it's resting on it. It's like a very weird shape, kind of like that. Let me do it one more time. And I think I got my gesture a little bit off. Kind of like that. The interesting thing here is the shape. The shape is like, I'm seeing like another connecting point, and I'll show you what I mean. I think I should have tacked it on there a little bit. Kind of like that. It kind of thins out though. I'm seeing a thin out point. So kind of like that. I'll stick with that. And then you have like the bean shape. Kind of going in like that. Kind of looks like that to me. Maybe I should have made it a little bit more elongated. Then you kind of have, based on like the perspective, it kind of looks like that. It's not an antenna, but it kind of looks like it's distorted like one with how it connects. Then you have like the claw, the initial part. It's a bit distorted because of the perspective. It would be attached to that. Then you have kind of goes like that. And I also realized with this leg, it's a little bit like I kind of messed it up, and it's a little bit farther than our actual reference, which I don't like that about it. Kind of like that. Then you have the other one, which is a bit obfuscated, but it's got to be there. It's not like just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. Although I may not draw the back leg here because I really can't see it. And I may just summarize it in like 2 bean shapes. Kind of like that. Right now I should have made it more like that. But I can kind of see it. It's going to be like, it's kind of going down as much as you can't see it. Oh well, maybe I'm kind of delving on the side of drawing things that you can't see or be 100% sure of. Then you have this one here, and you can't see more of it. You can see like a part of it. You could just see like the initial bean shape. Heavily distorted. And this shape right here looks very, very oval. But this claw, you could see a good portion of it. Although you could really only see half of the initial stump leg of it. This one you can kind of see the intermediary connection point, like right here. If you can, it's a bit hard to see. You could see the bean here pretty clearly. Oops, what am I doing? I'm so sorry. And the interesting thing about that is it kind of like, I'm seeing this clear connection point that I feel like I wasn't seeing before. Darn it. Sorry, let me do that one more time. Kind of like that. Then we could draw the claw shape, which is like kind of like that. And it looks pretty big based on our perspective, so I will try to encapsulate it within our line here. Kind of like that. We also have like another bean here for like the first segment part of the claw. Pretty sure it's not a claw, but kind of looks like one. Should have made it a bit fatter. Maybe like that. Then you have the sharp point. It's like a C curve. I guess I'll draw a little ellipse to show. Well, maybe I should just make it like a contour, but I'll show you. That's too long. Kind of like that. And then you have the smaller part here, and it has like that little extension, initial stumpy part. Then you have the claw. Kind of like that. Now that I look at it, I'm kind of realizing a big mistake I made was I don't think I made the scaffolding, like in this section, stick out far enough. Like it should have been out really far. Like I would have put it kind of like that. Kind of like that. You know, just to make it stick out further, and then it should have been like connected a bit like that, a bit like that. No, I didn't do it justice. Well, that's what I get. for being a bit exhausted. I will touch upon louses in the future. But darn, yeah, I have a lot to learn and a lot to get better at. But yeah, I hope this video was helpful for you. I wasn't expecting it to go on as long as it did. I'm extremely exhausted. So thank you for listening. I hope you learned something. If anything, the initial stuff you plot out is crucial to everything, and perhaps maybe my mistake in my initial gesture was not using enough overlap when clearly my reference has like overlapping legs, and I think I tried to make my gesture a bit clear with that when it may not have been the most helpful. And I also didn't do a good job like summarizing like the bigger shape that surrounds our louse and kind of like goes in. Like I really missed that. Even though I tried to do it, it just didn't work out as I expected to. I didn't take that area and that area. I didn't like extend it far enough when I should have. But yeah, thank you for listening. If you like my content, please subscribe to my channel. If you have a question, please leave it in the comments. Yeah, thank you. Bye.